If you go down to the woods today, you better prepare at all. Down in the caves the spiders play, and witches will take your soul. If you make it out, you can boast. It's Pebbles playing Panic Coaster.
Hello, I'm Mr. Pibbles, but you can call me Peter, and welcome back to our Halloween Park series here in Planet Coaster 2. Yes, in the last episode we built a roller coaster, this lovely little launching spinning coaster here called Enter the Nest. And that is this little area of our park. When I say little area, I mean this little section of this much bigger area. Done-ish. So today we're moving on to the rest of this section. So why don't we quickly just turn on the lights and get this started. Okay, yes, this is the area we are looking at today. And why don't we just get on with it? Let's roll that time lapse. Yes, the time-lapse is here to be rolled. Hello and welcome to another episode of our Halloween Park time-lapse. And we are still working on our lovely spooky woods foresty area of the park. And we're doing something slightly different today as we're coming in with I believe the technical term is log flume or boat ride or whatever. It's one of those, and we are doing that today. And before we do anything, the initial plan was to get pathing sorted. So the idea is, you'll exit this ride, and then you go underneath the path for the other ride, and then you pop out. And it just wasn't working, and I didn't know why. So I think it's to do with clearance heights, which is annoying, but we do something different with that. And, we'll get to that later in the episode. But for now, what we are doing is putting this path in. And I should probably tell you what this ride is about. So this ride is obviously here with our witch and witchy area of the park, themed around these witches and whatever. So the idea is that it's the boat ride, and it's got all of this stuff, and the idea is that it will be themed sort of thematically. It'll have some resemblance and ties to things like to things like Splash Mountain and Pirates of the Caribbean at Disneyland, specifically Paris, because that is my native Disneyland that I have been to at length. But yes, so that is the idea behind this, and that is what we're doing here. Sort of this big budget water ride. And so you can see me here coming up with this layout. Now, it is rather simple with what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to climb up inside of this mountain, and then you kind of come along, you do a scene, then you pop out the front, you do a little bit out the front, and then you go back in, and you do a little bit of a splash before you go through another scene, you climb up the other side, you do a scene up at the top before you come crashing through the front of the mountain down underneath the water. And yes, again, this bit is somewhat inspired by Splash Mountain. Now, I have never been on Splash Mountain, but I have seen the iconic photos of the building that it sits in, and the kind of mountain that it goes around, and I really wanted to kind of again capture that vibe. So there are bits inside this mountain, there are bits outside this mountain, and then there's this last bit which takes place under the mountain, and under what will ultimately end up being this lovely pool of water here. So yeah, coming in and just getting this bit here. Getting to the end of the ride was actually the hardest part, believe it or not. There's so much that actually you need to do to get the ride back to there, and you can't quite get it to work, kind of from using the lift hill at the back. So you have to go through all of these hoops, and it's rather annoying to try and get it done, but I won't complain too much about it, because ultimately it just works well enough for what it is. And I think if there's another inspiration for this, it would have to be sort of the only real kind of big budget water ride I've been on, which is Valhalla at Blackpool Pleasure Beach. And I know it's a completely different vibe to this, so it's not exact, and it's not kind of got any of that vibe to it, but I think that is the only real influence here that you might notice that exists. But yes, coming into here, just changing up the way that we view this this sort of exit and entrance situation. The entrance is now on the side that the exit path was, and I thought that would be just a lot better, because it's easier to get that smaller path underneath the queue line for the Enter the Spider's Den than it is to get the exit path under, and it just looks a lot cleaner when we get to the end of it. Now, hollowing out this cave down here for the ride to go through is obviously kind of a fun process here of just building up this pit so that you're looking on, you don't just see it diving into the water, you actually see this pit. And now you can see me here coming in and just again boring out this hole to kind of make this area underneath that fits with everything in a way that makes sense. And then coming over to here and just completing it. There's only so much I can say about me coming in and going, yep, let's move this piece of dirt here. Let's move this piece of dirt here. Smoothing that all out and just kind of making it make sense. That all works quite well. And now we can start kind of pulling up this mountain, but also creating this section here. Now you might be asking yourself, why have I just flattened the land there? Well, that is because I wanted to take a leaf out of the Disneyland playbook, and I wanted to have a restaurant in a ride. And that is something that I've always wanted to do in this game, and I just haven't found the right ride to do it for. And I thought actually this would make a cool one as you enter that first the first kind of dark ride scene within the ride itself. And I like the idea that you're going into this building, and then there's also a restaurant there as well, which is very much inspired by, again, Captain Jack's at Disneyland Paris, which is quite cool. And coming in here and adding this exit line now, just to, again, just make it make sense. Obviously, it doesn't look like much now, but when it's done, it will look good. I can promise you that. But yeah, it is just a kind of... It is a process of getting these bits in and making it look nice, which is a lot of the off-camera work here, which is unfortunate, but there's only so much you can do on camera to make something like this look good, and I didn't want this video, again, to be sort of hours long, because this ride did take me a long time. Not as long as it took me to make Restraint, but it did take me a long time. So, what theme are we going for this restaurant and scene in the ride? Well, this is supposed to be a bit of a witch's cabin. Again, I know I spoke in the last episode when we were looking at about the queue line for Enter the Spider's Nest, and I wanted that to have very much a cabin in the woods vibe, but a British take on it, where you've got this old wooden abandoned building. And here I wanted to go for a slightly completely different vibe of the traditional American cabin. So it's very much built out of these wooden planks, and it kind of again has this vibe that it's been taken over by these witches, which is quite fun. Witches. I will be here all week. I say that. I will not, fortunately be here all week because we are coming up to the end of this lovely little series. I need to have that conversation with you all about where we're going next, because obviously we are coming up towards the end of this, which is sad. You know, this has been a big part of my life. It's a big, for the last month, it's a big challenge to try and get sort of these 13 episodes out within these 13 days. And obviously I have been doing work before the first episode came out, but it is very much a process of trying to get it all done within the time frame, and especially a park with this budget that I haven't really tried before. And skipping ahead, we have done all of the theming, which I know some might be sad about, but again, as I was saying, we don't have the time. So we themed up the inside, which has a couple of show scenes and all those lift hills and the drops. And then we themed up the outside and the inside of the restaurant up, which is quite fun. But obviously outside here we've put down this water, and I think this water and the weeping willows just give this the vibe that I was wanting to go for, which is a swamp. I wanted this to feel very much like it was a swampy area, and I think with the dead trees scattered here and there, I think it just works. Now coming in here, we are sorting out this station building, which is a fun little building, and we are coming back to my old faithful of the aged wood roofs. You know, I love these roofs. They are so useful. They have proved me they've served me well throughout my time in the Challenge Park series, and here we are now getting to use them again. It is brilliant. But yeah, speaking about, again, what I'm wanting to do after this, obviously we will return back to the Challenge Park series, but my studies now are in full force. If you don't know, I'm a full-time student alongside this, and I'm currently working on my Masters. And the biggest thing is obviously that I need to prioritise that, so I think once this series is done, we will move back to the Challenge Park, but we'll only have an episode or two a week of that. And obviously that gives you all home time to digest the episode and actually comment before I build new episodes, because that's one of the things, you know, I was giving you all a chance to kind of come in and comment and name things, and I just wasn't giving you the time to do it, and obviously I was having to come back and talk about it episodes afterwards because I just didn't have the time to do it at the time, because I was doing kind of 4 or 5 episodes in the span it would take for someone to comment. Now looking at this queue line, it is a very fun queue line that just sweeps underneath these 2 bits of path here, and I really like the way that it looks, sort of with the bridging elements over the top of them, and it just it's so fun to me to have this concept of a queue line for a ride that goes under things and over things and just interacts with other rides, because you know you don't get that too much, but I like it when that does happen. And coming in here now, we are again working on this bit outside of the witches' cabins and stuff, just so we can kind of have this exit path. And what we're doing is we are adding all of these Viking jetties in for a reason that will become apparent in a bit. But what we are going to do once we're done with this, is we are going to make the wooden path that's already there invisible, so that these jetties are the only things you can see, as we are doing now. And you can see these here. It's quite a fun little kind of idea of having these jetties be what you walk on. You know, I'm a fan of Baldur's Gate. I have played a lot of that, and I am very aware of Auntie Ethel's swamp and all of this kind of around, which is quite fun. And I just wanted to kind of capture that vibe again of this almost bayou-esque swamp that kind of just sits here with these dead trees and, as I say, most importantly, the witch's house that sits right in the middle of it all. And coming to this different fencing type, this is from the mythology pack, and I believe it just works so well for what I wanted it to do within this area, which was sort of give off this vibe of a slightly abandoned, slightly creepy, slightly spooky, wooden... well, I just wanted the fence to feel spooky, if I'm being honest, and I think this was the best for it. You know, I think... I think this sort of vibe, I think, obviously taking it away from theme parks, because there's only so many theme parks I can talk about that I've been to, and nothing really has this vibe, but something that does have this vibe is a game that I can talk about. I don't have it, but I have seen bits and pieces from it, and I'm a fan, and that is Mario Kart World and Boo Cinema. Now you might be asking, why am I bringing up a cinema track? Well, a track based around a cinema when I'm talking about everything that I'm doing here, and that is because outside of it, they've built up the bits from the SNES, I believe, that being Ghost Valley. And because they've built that up, it has this pier vibe outside, that's sort of similar, again, to Broken Pier, which was a track in a different game. I can't remember which one. I'm not too hot on my Mario Kart lore, but there we go. But again, I wanted it to have this sort of slightly spooky, slightly broken, slightly pier-esque feel to it, and I think this is the best way to go about it with this fence. And obviously the planks. And it is a vibe that I haven't had a chance to play around with. Which is why I'm so thankful that this series allows me to do things like this. And you know, I haven't really played around with anything like this in the base game. Or other parks. You know, I've played around with the themes in the game, like mythology and like Viking, or I've played with themes that are tangential to things like that are quite easy to do and that are overplayed and somewhat generic. Things like, obviously, well, there are the returning themes from Planet Coaster 1 that I've played around with, things like Fairy Tale, Pirates, Western, and then again I was talking about the improvised themes such as steampunk, which is one of the most generic. It's just brick and bits, which are really just the aquatic theme again, which is quite fun. But I've done that. I've played around with other things such as a circusy theme, and kind of it's moving into those sorts of themes that aren't in the game that allows you to really work and try to get something that feels interesting, which is why I'm really enjoying this, because I've never done sort of an American Spooky Farm themed park before, or an area of a park. I've never tried to do anything big like a big Victorian manor that's now a hospital, and I've never ever done sort of a swampy forest before, and that is why I like this. It just gives me a chance to get in and try something new. Now what we are doing is we are coming in, we're putting all of these trees around. You know, now that I'm talking about everything else, everything happens at once, which is fun. And we are just checking the sightlines of the mountain quickly, which is quite fun because obviously, you know, we can't see this from any other part of the park, which is great. I can't say that much for the asylum because that pops out over everything, which is slightly annoying, but we can live with it. And yeah, so now coming in and putting some fences down in front of the ride itself, and in front of this sort of massive swamp over the path just so you don't fall in, and it just again adds to the vibe. And we're now coming in here and we're adding these candles to the walls inside just so there's a bit of light. But I believe now we are coming towards the end of our time-lapse segment of today's episode, so I will see you in a moment or two in real time. Yes, well, welcome back to Real Time, and this episode we've got quite a bit done. Obviously we have finished off this lovely spooky forest section of the park with our escape from Witch Mountain, Night on Witch Mountain, sorry, not escape. Night on Witch Mountain, a lovely boat ride inside this Witch Mountain. And obviously alongside that, we've finished off this queue line down here, making it look quite nice. And we now have this lovely little restaurant down here that, you know, you can go inside. And just like Pirates of the Caribbean, you can sit here, you can look out, and the boats will go past you. Now, if you have enjoyed this episode, then please feel free to give me a like, give me a comment, and possibly even a subscribe if I'm lucky enough, and I will see you in the next episode. Ta-ta. Roll that outro.